Thank you, Drew. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I am mindful that I'm the only thing standing between you all and the cocktail hour, so I will keep on pace here. We are a publicly traded company, and before I begin, I'd like to remind you that this presentation contains forward-looking statements, and you should check our documents on file with the SEC for further information. So Vericel is a fully integrated specialty biologics company that develops autologous therapies, manufactures them, and sells them as well for the treatment of serious diseases and conditions. We have a rapidly growing commercial business, which is really a specialty biologics business in that we have premium priced products with relatively lower volumes, which requires a smaller commercial footprint. We also have a high potential pipeline that we believe provides near and long-term growth drivers for the company, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. The genesis of our commercial efforts began when we acquired Sanofi's regenerative medicine and cell therapy business in 2014. Through the acquisition, we acquired two commercial products, Carticel and Epicel, as well as a development stage product in the US, MACI, which is a third-generation cartilage repair product. One of the key priorities when we acquired the business was to drive revenue growth. It was the products, Carticel and Epicel, were doing about $40 million at the time, and to drive the company to profitability as quickly as possible. And I think the company's done a pretty good job doing that so far. Our trailing 12-month revenues as of the second quarter were about $53 million, growing at a compound annual growth rate of about 12%, which is certainly more than the industry as a whole. But we also created a number of near-term and longer-term growth drivers for the company that we'll speak about in turn. So the first is MACI, which is currently under review with the FDA, and a PDUFA goal date of January 3rd, 2017, which we believe will substantially expand our cartilage repair franchise. We also gained approval from the FDA for a pediatric label expansion for Epicel, which was important for that product's growth, as I'll explain in a moment. And we also met the primary endpoint in a phase 2b Ixmyelocel DCM study of Xminus LT for the treatment of advanced heart failure. We published that data earlier this year. So we'll talk about each of those in turn. Our last financing was in the fall of 2014. We raised about $40 million and had participation by a number of leading institutional healthcare investors who have been very supportive of the company since that time. And we've pulled together a very experienced management team that has deep expertise in development and commercialization of products in the US as well as globally. So this is just a snapshot of our portfolio. Again, we have two marketed products, Carticel, which as the name implies is a cartilage repair product, and Epicel, which as the name also implies is a permanent skin replacement for severe burn patients. Those are our two commercial products, and again, we have MACI under review with the FDA, and our Ixmyelocel DCM program, which just completed a phase 2 study. So turning to our commercial products, so Carticel is a first-generation autologous chondrocyte implant, or ACI product, for the treatment of cartilage defects in the knee. It's the first and only product that's been approved in the United States, and it's manufactured by taking a small biopsy of a patient's cartilage. The biopsy is sent to our manufacturing facility in Cambridge, where the chondrocytes, which are the cells that make cartilage, are isolated and expanded. The cells are then injected into the focal chondral defect, which you can think of as a pothole in the cartilage, where the cells adhere to the subchondral bone. They expand and produce the cartilage that's naturally present in the knee. This product was approved pursuant to a BLA in the United States, and we have durability of repair data out to 20 years for this product. From a commercial perspective, our target patient population are younger, more active patients with large cartilage defects where alternative therapies and procedures do not provide durability of repair. We have a very dedicated group of key orthopedic surgeons, generally the sports medicine physicians that drive the majority of our business. Genzyme and Sanofi did a nice job gaining reimbursement for this product, so it's covered on essentially all major medical plans. And as I mentioned, it's a premium price product, so the AWP is about $44,000, and our trailing 12-month revenues as of the end of the second quarter were about $37 million for this product. So it's a nice product for us to build our foundation in cartilage repair. There's limited competition. There's no other products that are currently approved, and these products, as autologous therapies, do not go generic. So our goal with Carticel was to, again, maintain a foundation, grow it slightly ahead of a MACI launch, and I think we've done a pretty good job doing that. Again, about $37 million in revenues, trailing 4 quarters. Sales were up about 10% through the first half of the year versus the same period in 2015, and again, a nice foundation moving forward. And as we look forward to MACI, we're very excited about the opportunity to expand our cartilage repair franchise. There's about 750,000 cartilage repair procedures done each year. About 40,000 to 50,000 of those, we estimate, involve these larger, full-thickness focal chondral defects. Most of our business is private pay. About 85% of our patients are covered by commercial payers. And so when you kind of look at the addressable market, you need to take that into account, as well as the fact that these are not products that will be used in patients with BMIs over 35 and so on. And so when you kind of look at the addressable market, we estimate that there's at least 20,000 patients in the U.S. each year. We currently treat about 1,100 patients, so there's multiples fold increase in terms of the market potential for us. So we have about 5 or 6% of the market for procedures and products to treat these patients, but we're actually the market leader in revenues, where we have about 35 or 36% of the revenues of products that are used to treat these patients. So the combination of the MACI product, which I'll describe, a large number of procedures, strong premium pricing, we think it's a great combination for us to really build this business. So MACI is a third-generation ACI intended for the treatment of cartilage defects in the knee. This product's been approved in Europe and globally. About 10,000 patients have been treated over time with this product, so it's a proven product. It was the first tissue-engineered product that was approved under the Advanced Therapy Medicinal Product regs in Europe in 2013. When we bought this product, it was not clear that there was a regulatory path forward to submit the BLA. Our clinical and regulatory team did a great job in working with the FDA to define that pathway. We submitted our BLA in early January this year. The FDA established a PDUFA goal date of January 3rd, 2017, and has advised the company that it does not intend to hold an advisory committee to discuss the application. So the advantage of this product is clear from this slide. So Carticel, again, is a first-generation product. There were clearly obstacles involved in its adoption. The key orthopedic surgeons use it because it works, and there's a durability of repair that I mentioned earlier, but it's a very technically demanding procedure. It involves a full open knee surgery or arthrotomy. By label, you take a periosteal flap or harvest off the shin bone, microsuture it into place, inject the cells underneath. So it's a very tedious, time-consuming, and difficult surgery, but it's done, again, because the product works well. We think that MACI addresses a lot of those obstacles. It's a much simpler, less invasive, and faster procedure for the surgeon with a improved post-operative course for the patient in terms of rehab. So MACI is produced the same way as Carticel, except that in the last 2 to 4 days of production, the chondrocytes are seeded onto the collagen membrane. That collagen membrane is trimmed to the size of the defect, and it's simply glued in with fibrin glue. So it's about a 15 to 20-minute procedure. So we think it has substantial advantages over Carticel. Again, because we were able to define a pathway forward with the FDA, we certainly, if these products are approved, would be the first to market, which we think is important in this therapeutic area. The product, as I mentioned, was approved in Europe on the basis of the SUMMIT study, which was a landmark study in about 144 patients that demonstrated highly statistically significant improvements in pain and function scores. The 3-year data was presented last year at the American Orthopedics Society meeting that demonstrated that the benefits went out to 3 years. And again, because we're delivering the same cells with long-term durability data, just on using a different administration, we think there's certainly we expect that the long-term benefits will be the same as we've seen in Carticel. Our second marketed product is Epicel, which is a permanent skin replacement for full thickness burns greater than or equal to 30% of total body surface area. So this is a very important product for severe burn patients who really have no other therapeutic alternatives other than autografts. Like Carticel, it's the only FDA-approved autologous epidermal product for treating these patients. This product was approved under an orphan regulatory framework as a humanitarian use device, and that's a framework that's available for diseases or conditions that impact less than 4,000 patients in the U.S. each year. With that approval framework comes pricing restrictions generally. You can sort of get out from under those pricing restrictions if you have a pediatric label, and that we were able to accomplish that this year as well, where the FDA approved a label expansion for us for the treatment of pediatric patients. And that's important for a number of reasons, most important of which is that it helps the burn surgeons who are treating these vulnerable patients to understand the benefits and use of Epicel. Specifically now, the label points out that the benefit of Epicel relates to its survival. So in the label is a study called the Munster study that demonstrated that patients treated with Epicel had a 90% survival rate versus 37% for patients treated with standard of care. So a huge survival benefit that's very important. And again, we are no longer subject to any pricing restrictions for the product so that we're able to drive growth. And we think there's a great opportunity here. When we bought the product, it was doing about $7 million in revenues. Genzyme and Sanofi certainly didn't have any promotional efforts to speak of on the product, but there's a large number of patients out there. They were treating maybe 65 patients a year, but there's about 40,000 patients that are hospitalized in the U.S. each year. About 1,500 of those patients are within our label of greater than 30% burns. We typically treat 40% and above, but even there's 10 times the number of patients that have been treated. And so a large addressable market for us. And we've grown this product very rapidly. We more than doubled revenues in the first year that we own the product. Revenues now are running at about a $17 million pace, and rolling 4-quarter growth of 27%. So it's been a big growth driver, and all of this is volume-based. So the business as a whole, as I mentioned earlier, has performed very well. We took a business that was declining in Sanofi and Genzyme's hands and turned it around with revenues now up over $50 million. And, obviously we expect even greater growth with the potential MACI approval and additional investment in Epicel. We've taken margins that were negative in Sanofi and Genzyme's hands, and they're now up at about 50%. We expect those to increase with increased volumes and some other initiatives. So, we're really excited about the business that we bought and our ability to really meet our goal of becoming the first profitable cell therapy company. Our second product in development, which I'll touch on quickly, is Xminus LT, which is a highly differentiated multicellular therapy that is produced by taking a small aspirate of a patient's bone marrow. We expand the cells that are known to play a role in tissue repair and regeneration, namely M2 macrophages and mesenchymal stromal cells. These are the cells that the body that are naturally mobilized anytime you have a tissue injury, and we simply expand those cells. When they get to an injured tissue, they secrete high levels of potent anti-inflammatory and angiogenic factors. They're also the cells that go in and clean up apoptotic cells and cellular debris to reduce inflammation and immune responses. And we think it's that combination of the paracrine effects of the secreted factors plus direct cell activities that lead to the therapeutic effects we've seen, which are reductions in inflammation, promotion of angiogenesis, and tissue repair. And we produce this product in Ann Arbor using a proprietary, highly automated and scalable GMP manufacturing system. So the cells are loaded into the bioreactor that you see on the upper right. The bioreactor is placed in an incubator, and 12 days later we have the finished product. So this manufacturing system allows us to have a very high gross margin even at commercial launch, and we expect cost of goods to be less than 10% using this manufacturing system. We're developing this product for the treatment of advanced heart failure due to ischemic dilated cardiomyopathy, or DCM, for which we have an orphan designation. As you all know, heart failure is a significant unmet medical need. Dilated cardiomyopathy is a leading cause of heart transplantation and heart failure. It's a disease that's characterized by weakening of the heart walls, thinning of the heart walls, expansion of the chambers, and an inability of the heart to pump blood effectively throughout the body. The patients we're targeting are advanced heart failure patients. So these are patients that are refractory to further medical therapy. They will have maxed out their pharmacologic treatments, their medical device treatments like defibrillators and pacemakers. They'll no longer be candidates for revascularization procedures or bypass surgeries. So really they're on a path to a left ventricular assist device, a heart transplantation, or death. So we think it's an optimal intervention point for Xminus-LT. We completed earlier this year a phase 2b registration quality study. It was a double-blind randomized placebo-controlled study at about 30 sites in the U.S. We treated 114 of these advanced heart failure patients, and we looked to the FDA guidance on the development of cell therapies for heart failure in choosing the primary endpoints, which were hard clinical endpoints of deaths, cardiovascular hospitalizations, and treatment of these patients in an emergency room setting. The results were presented at a late-breaking clinical trial session of the American College of Cardiology and published in The Lancet. And what those results showed was that the study hit its primary endpoint, so there was a 37% reduction in deaths, cardiovascular hospitalizations, and emergency room treatments for patients that were treated with Xminus-LT versus placebo. The secondary endpoints all favored Xminus-LT. Obviously, the study was powered based on the primary endpoint, so they all favored Xminus-LT, things like time to first event, 6-minute walk test, ejection fractions, and so on, but they did not reach statistical significance. So our plan for this product going forward is, because we hit the primary endpoint, we will be treating patients in a crossover portion of the study, so those patients that received placebo are eligible to be treated with Xminus-LT. We expect to begin treating those patients later this month. And we're also preparing for regulatory meetings in the US, Europe, and Japan, with a specific focus on Japan, where a heart failure product from Terumo was recently approved on the basis, conditionally approved on the basis of a 7-patient study in Japan. So we think there's a path forward in Japan that we're exploring actively. And all of these regulatory discussions obviously will feed into our partnering discussions globally. So the final slide is just a milestone slide. Obviously, as a commercial organization, we have the opportunity to demonstrate continued progress with the commercial business on each of our quarterly calls. And from a product development standpoint, as I mentioned, the MACI PDUFA date is coming in about 3 months, so we're excited about that. We're progressing through the prescribed process of mid-cycle meetings, late-cycle meetings, and looking forward to the upcoming MACI PDUFA date. We also received approval of the HDE supplement for the pediatric label for Epicel, as I mentioned, and again are preparing for our regulatory meetings for Xminus-LT. So that is it. Thank you for your attention, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.